The dust swirled around Tay's boots as he stepped onto Earth's surface for the first time. 100 years of abandonment had left a thin layer of particles covering everything, yet strangely, the planet remained perfectly preserved. Buildings stood tall and proud, streets remained intact, and even vehicles sat frozen in time as if their owners had just stepped away for a moment. "Readings are stable," Tay said into his communicator, adjusting the environmental scanner on his wrist. "Air quality surprisingly good considering the circumstances." The alien archaeologist looked up at the Sol skyline, marveling at the human architecture that had withstood a century of emptiness. His team spread out behind him, each member equally stunned by the eerie perfection of the abandoned city. "It's like they all just vanished," whispered Han, the youngest researcher on the expedition. Her eyes were wide as she ran her fingers along the hood of an old vehicle. No signs of panic, no evidence of mass evacuation. The historical records were right. Mankind disappeared within a single day. Tay nodded solemnly. This wasn't like other extinct civilizations they had studied. Across the galaxy, there were no ruins, no evidence of war or disease, no gradual decline, just absence. Complete and sudden absence. "The council records claim natural disaster," said Tay, though his tone betrayed his skepticism. "But I've never seen a disaster that leaves buildings intact and takes only the inhabitants." The team moved deeper into the city, their footsteps echoing off empty buildings. Stores with merchandise still on shelves, restaurants with tables still set, offices with computers that powered on when Tay pressed their buttons. Most shocking of all, the city's infrastructure continued functioning in many areas. Lights flickered on at dusk, automated systems whirred to life, as if patiently waiting for their masters to return. "Tay, you need to see this," called Jin, their technology specialist. He stood before a large public screen that had suddenly illuminated as they passed. The system recognized our presence and activated. The screen displayed what appeared to be ordinary human news footage from exactly 100 years ago. Families walking in parks, people working in offices, children playing, all completely normal until the timestamp hit 1437 on July 8, 2057. The footage didn't show anything dramatic, just a subtle shift as people looked up, almost in unison, expressions of confusion rather than terror washing over their faces. And then, between one frame and the next, they were gone. Not just those on camera, but every human being. "Play it again," Tay whispered, moving closer to the screen. Slower this time. The footage replayed, and this time Tay noticed something strange. A barely perceptible ripple in the air just before the humans vanished, like heat rising from pavement. "That's not a natural phenomenon," said Han, pointing to the ripple. "That's energy-based technology." Tay felt a chill run down his spine. The council told everyone that humans died out naturally. Then why did they quarantine Earth for a century? Han asked, voicing the question they'd all been thinking. Their exploration continued as daylight faded. The team discovered homes with meals still on tables, parks with toys abandoned mid-play, and hospitals where medical equipment still monitored patients who were no longer there. Everything about the scene contradicted the official explanation. Mankind hadn't perished. They'd simply been removed. As night fell, Han's equipment detected unusual energy readings emanating from beneath an ancient monument in the center of Seoul. The team followed the signal to what appeared to be an ordinary office building, but underneath they discovered a hidden facility, one that had been designed to survive whatever had taken humanity. "This was deliberately hidden," Tay said as they descended into the underground complex. "Someone wanted this to be found eventually." The facility was a data vault, walls of servers and storage devices that had been kept operational by an independent power source for a century. At its center stood a terminal with a single message displayed in multiple languages. "The truth is not what they told you." When Tay activated the terminal, it requested authentication. After several failed attempts, Han suggested trying a simple command. "We are looking for humanity." The screen flickered, and thousands of files appeared, documents, videos, and scientific data that had been hidden from the council. Tay scrolled through the files with trembling hands. What they found shattered everything they'd been told about mankind's fate. "These are council documents," whispered Han in disbelief. "Internal communications that were never made public." The files revealed that humans hadn't perished. They had been deemed too unpredictable by the Galactic Council. One document, marked with the highest security classification, contained the shocking directive: Species 7293 exhibits dangerous evolutionary traits, including rapid adaptation and technological advancement. Containment protocol authorized. As night deepened outside, the team huddled around the terminal, reading file after file with growing horror. The truth was emerging from a century of darkness. Mankind hadn't disappeared. They had been taken. And somewhere beyond Earth, beyond normal space perhaps, humanity still existed, unaware that they had been judged too dangerous to join the galactic community. "We need to report this," said Han. Tay shook his head slowly. "To who? The very council that did this?" "No. We need more evidence first." As if in response to his words, a hidden compartment in the floor slid open, revealing a small device unlike any technology they had seen before. When Tay cautiously picked it up, it projected coordinates into the air, coordinates that pointed to Jupiter's orbit. "Someone wanted us to find this," Tay said quietly. "Someone wanted the truth to be known." Outside, the empty city stood silent. Under starlight, its missing inhabitants now a mystery with a far more sinister explanation than anyone had imagined. The team had barely begun analyzing the data vault when their equipment detected an approaching council ship. Tay hurriedly copied as many files as possible onto a portable drive while the others concealed evidence of their discovery. "They shouldn't be here yet," Han whispered, her eyes fixed on the scanner. "Our expedition has 2 more weeks of approved research time." Ty slipped the drive into his pocket. "Which means they're monitoring us more closely than we thought." The council ship landed with military precision in what had once been a park. Council Representative Ju emerged, her formal gray uniform marking her as a high-ranking official. Though she smiled as she approached, Tay noticed how her eyes darted around, assessing everything. "Quite the interesting expedition you've assembled, Archaeologist Tay," she said, clasping her hands behind her back. "Finding anything noteworthy about this unfortunate civilization?" Tay kept his expression neutral. "Just the usual patterns of a suddenly abandoned society, though the preservation is remarkable." "Yes, remarkable indeed," Ju replied, her smile not reaching her eyes. "The council has decided your team's findings warrant immediate review. I'll be joining your expedition." It wasn't a request. Within hours, Ju had established herself in their base camp, reviewing all research data and requesting detailed reports of everything they'd discovered. The team exchanged worried glances, carefully avoiding any mention of the hidden facility or the coordinates. That night, while Ju slept, Tay gathered his most trusted team members. "We need to work quickly," he whispered. "Sue, can you break the remaining encryption on the files we copied?" Sue nodded, her fingers already flying across her portable terminal. "Some of it, yes. But I need time. Time we don't have," Han muttered, keeping watch at the tent entrance. By morning, Sue had cracked the first layer of encryption. The team huddled around her screen, reading with growing disbelief. "This can't be right," Jin breathed. According to these files, humans weren't just advanced. They were evolving faster than any species the Council had ever encountered. The documents detailed careful observation of human development over centuries, where most species took thousands of years to advance technologically. Humans had gone from simple tools to space exploration in less than 10,000 years, a pace that alarmed Council scientists. "Look at this," Sue pointed to a graph. "This shows projected development. The Council predicted humans would surpass every known civilization within 3 generations. Han frowned. "And that's why they're gone? Because they learned too quickly?" Before anyone could answer, Ju's voice cut through the tent. "An excellent question." The team froze as Ju stepped inside, her expression hardening as she saw the decrypted files. You've accessed restricted information, she said coldly. This expedition is terminated. All research materials are now confiscated under Council Directive 317. Tay stood his ground. We have authorization to study this planet thoroughly. These files were discovered during legitimate research. Files that were hidden from the Council. For good reason, Ju snapped. Humanity was designated an evolutionary anomaly. Their pattern of development was deemed destabilizing. Destabilizing, Tay repeated. They were just people. Everything we've seen shows a civilization of artists, scientists, families. A civilization that doubled its technological capacity every 20 years, Ju interrupted. Do you understand what that means? In a single century, they would have surpassed species that have been developing for millennia. Her words hung in the air, damning in their implication. The records say they disappeared, Han said carefully. But they didn't die out naturally, did they? Ju's silence was answer enough. Where are they? Tay demanded. What did the Council do? That information is beyond your clearance, Ju replied, reaching for her communicator. My security team will collect all your equipment. You'll be escorted back to your ship and... She never finished. At that exact moment, the ground beneath them trembled, and a deep humming filled the air. Outside, a brilliant blue light shot, upward from somewhere in the city center. What did you do? Ju hissed, her composure cracking. Nothing, Tay insisted, rushing outside with the others. The beam of light originated from the hidden facility they'd discovered. Somehow, their interaction with the data vault had triggered something, a beacon that now pulsed rhythmically, sending signals into space. Shut it down, Ju ordered, her voice rising in panic. Shut it down now. But as they watched, the beam intensified, and then just as suddenly as it had appeared, it vanished. In its place, coordinates hovered in the sky like ghostly numbers, the same coordinates they'd found in the hidden compartment. Jupiter, Han whispered. It's pointing to Jupiter's orbit. Ju's face had gone pale. She grabbed Ty's arm with surprising strength. You have no idea what you've done. The containment protocols were for everyone's protection, including theirs. Containment? Sue repeated, the word heavy with meaning. Not extinction. In her agitation, Ju revealed more than she intended. The Council's decision was merciful. They could have eliminated the human threat entirely. The team stared at her, in horror as the truth dawned. They're alive, Tay said slowly. The humans are still alive somewhere, aren't they? The Council didn't destroy them, they relocated them. Ju's communicator buzzed urgently. She glanced at it, then back at the team with new determination. This expedition is over. No one leaves Earth until everything is secured. But as she turned to leave, Jin stepped forward. The beacon wasn't just sending signals up, he said quietly. It was broadcasting to every human communication device on the planet. Around them, lights were coming on in buildings that had been dark for a century. Screens flickered to life in abandoned homes and offices. Earth's dormant systems were awakening, responding to a command set in motion 100 years ago. On every screen, the same message appeared. Find us. The truth that had been hidden for a century was finally emerging. Humanity hadn't vanished by accident or natural disaster. They had been taken, and now, somehow, they were reaching back across the void. Ju's communicator continued to buzz, with increasing urgency. Whatever the Council had done to humanity, whatever secrets they had buried on this empty planet, they were about to be exposed. The journey to Jupiter took 3 tense days. Despite Ju's attempts to stop them, Tay and his team had managed to escape Earth with the coordinates and critical data. They'd slipped away during the chaos that followed the beacon's activation, when every electronic system on the planet began broadcasting the same mysterious message. Their small research vessel pushed through the darkness of space, the gas giant, growing larger in their viewports with each passing hour. Tay hadn't slept much, spending most of his time reviewing the files they'd recovered from the hidden facility. I still don't understand, Han said, floating into the command center with a container of nutrition paste. She pushed one toward Tay. Why would the Council go to such lengths? Relocating an entire species. Tay rubbed his tired eyes. Fear, he said simply. These reports show the Council was terrified of how quickly humans adapted. While our species took 15,000 years to develop powered flight, humans did it in less than 100. Their rate of technological advancement was unprecedented. Sue, who had been quiet for most of the journey, looked up from her console. There's more to it than that. I've been analyzing their cultural records. Humans had a unique psychology. They thrived under pressure. The more challenges they faced, the faster they evolved solutions, which made them dangerously unpredictable in the Council's view, Jin added, joining them at the viewport. But exile seems extreme, even for the Council. The coordinates led them to what appeared to be empty space in Jupiter's shadow. Nothing showed on their scanners until Sue recalibrated them to search for specific energy patterns mentioned in the encrypted files. There, she said suddenly, pointing to a faint outline appearing on the screen. Cloaking technology, far more advanced than anything the Council currently uses. As they approached, the cloaking field flickered, revealing a massive space station. Unlike the sleek organic designs favored by most Council species, this structure was angular and functional, unmistakably human in origin, yet far more advanced than what humans should have been capable of building a century ago. The station's generating its own gravitational field, Jin observed as they docked. That's technology the Council claimed was still theoretical. The docking procedure completed automatically, as if the station had been expecting them. When the airlock doors slid open, they revealed corridors bathed in soft blue light, clean and well-maintained, not abandoned as they had expected. Someone's been maintaining this place, Han whispered, her voice echoing slightly in the empty hallway. They moved cautiously through the station, finding laboratories, living quarters, and observation decks, all designed for human use, but adapted with modifications for various alien physiologies. Most striking were the date stamps on equipment and documents. Many were from decades after humanity's supposed disappearance. This station was operational long after the vanishing, Tay noted, examining a terminal with logs dated just 15 years ago. The central chamber of the station contained what appeared to be a massive quantum computer, its processing cores pulsing with blue-white energy. As they entered, the system activated automatically, projecting a holographic interface. "Welcome to Watchpoint Prometheus," announced a calm voice. "Voice pattern and genetic analysis confirms non-human visitors. Activating historical archive. Protocols." The room darkened and around them appeared three-dimensional images, recordings of humans working alongside aliens who wore early versions of Council environmental suits. The date stamp showed these recordings were from 30 years before the vanishing. These are first contact records, Tay realized. But according to official history, humans never achieved first contact before they disappeared. The archive continued, showing meetings between human representatives and Council members. Unlike the official narrative of failed diplomacy, these recordings showed productive collaborations, technological exchanges, and growing relationships. "The Council lied about everything," Han said, her voice tight with anger. Humans weren't isolated primitives. They were already working with spacefaring species. The hologram shifted to show Council chambers, where officials argued heatedly about the human problem. The recording was damning. High-ranking officials openly discussing humanity's rapid advancement as an existential threat to Council dominance. "They're developing quantum technology at an alarming rate," said one Council member in the recording. "Projections indicate they'll achieve dimensional manipulation within 50 years. We cannot allow this." Another recording showed the final vote. "The Dimensional Containment Protocol is approved. Preparation for the vanishing directive will begin immediately." Jin stepped back as if physically struck. Dimensional containment? They didn't just relocate humans to another planet. They moved them to another dimension entirely. The final recording showed the implementation of the plan. Council ships positioning themselves around Earth. The massive energy buildup. The ripple effect they had observed in the footage from Earth. It wasn't just a visual distortion, it was the fabric of reality being manipulated. Most disturbing were the recordings showing that many humans knew what was happening. Some recordings showed humans fighting against council forces, others showed resignation, and some, most heartbreaking of all, showed humans desperately trying to leave messages for whoever might find them. They knew, Tay whispered. Some of them understood they were being removed from our universe. The quantum computer hummed louder, and new data appeared, monitoring stations tracking a parallel dimension where Earth had been relocated. Early readings showed confusion and chaos as humans found themselves in an empty copy of their solar system. Later readings showed remarkable adaptation and recovery. This station was built by humans before the vanishing, Sue said, examining the data. They created it as a way to monitor both dimensions and potentially re-establish contact. The final log entry, dated just 1 month ago, showed something extraordinary: energy fluctuations from the other side. The human dimension was experiencing instabilities, but not from breakdown. The patterns were too regular, too precisely targeted. "They're not just surviving over there," Jin said in awe, studying the patterns. "They're trying to break through. They've been working on getting back for a century." The quantum computer suddenly shifted its display, showing real-time readings. Energy levels were spiking from the other dimension, focusing directly on their location. "The beacon we activated on Earth," Han realized. It wasn't just sending a signal, it was synchronizing with this station, creating a connection point between dimensions. Around them, the air began to shimmer with the same ripple effect they had seen in the Earth footage. But this time, it wasn't taking something away. It was bringing something through. The quantum computer's voice spoke one final time. "Dimensional barrier integrity at 27% and falling. Transition event imminent." Tay and his team watched in stunned silence as the barrier between worlds began to thin, and humanity prepared to return from a century of exile. The shimmering in the air intensified, forming a perfect circle of distorted space in the center of the chamber. Tay and his team backed away, both afraid and fascinated by what they were witnessing. The quantum computer continued to process vast amounts of data, its cores glowing brighter as the dimensional anomaly stabilized. "It's a viewing portal," Jin whispered, checking readings on his scanner. "Not a full breach, just a window between dimensions." The rippling air cleared like parting fog, revealing an image that made them all freeze in place. It wasn't the primitive refugee camp they'd expected after a century of isolation. Instead, they saw a vast, gleaming city of impossible architecture, towers that seemed to defy gravity, vehicles that moved through the air in perfect formation, and energy systems unlike anything in council space. "That can't be right," Hani breathed. According to the council's containment protocols, the pocket dimension was supposed to limit technological advancement. Humans should have regressed, not this. The viewing portal expanded, showing more of the human realm. There, Earth still existed, but it was transformed. The oceans were cleaner, the cities integrated harmoniously with natural landscapes, and orbital structures formed a network around the planet. "The council was wrong," Tay said quietly. "Isolation didn't hinder them. It accelerated their development." Sue adjusted controls on the computer interface. "I think I can access more data about their development timeline." The portal shifted, showing images from throughout the 100 years of containment. The first years had indeed been chaotic. Confusion and panic as humanity realized they were cut off from the universe they knew. But what followed was remarkable. Without council restrictions on technological development, humans had pursued avenues of science that the council had deemed too dangerous or unpredictable. "Look at their energy systems," Jin said, pointing to structures that pulsed with blue-white light similar to the quantum computer. "They've mastered zero-point energy generation. The council's been trying to develop that for millennia." The images continued, showing how humans had adapted to their isolation. Rather than fracturing into competing factions as the council had predicted, they had unified, pooling resources and knowledge to understand their situation and find a way back. "They knew," Han said suddenly. "Look at their archives. They've had records of what happened all along." The portal shifted to show a museum-like structure where the truth of the vanishing was preserved. Clear images showed council ships surrounding Earth, the dimensional technology used to relocate humanity, and even recordings of the council session that had ordered their removal. How could they have known? Sue wondered. The council erased all evidence. Not all of it, Tay replied. Remember those hidden facilities we found? Humans must have suspected something was coming. They left breadcrumbs, both on Earth and here at this station. The viewing portal expanded further, revealing something even more startling. Monitoring stations similar to the one they were standing in, but on the human side. Humans in advanced environmental suits worked at consoles, studying readings from what appeared to be their own universe. They've been watching us, Jin realized. Just as we've been watching them. Q, their scientist who had been quietly analyzing data at a separate console, looked up with wide eyes. Not just watching. According to these logs, they've been aware of their containment for at least 70 years, and they've been actively working to breach the dimensional barrier for the last 50. But why wait a century? Han asked. This level of technology, they could have broken through decades ago. Sue found the answer in the station's archives. They were being careful. Early breach attempts caused dangerous instabilities in both dimensions. They've been refining the process, waiting until they could return safely. The viewing portal abruptly changed, showing what appeared to be a control room filled with humans. Unlike the Council's sterile hierarchical command centers, this room buzzed with collaborative energy. At its center stood a woman with silver-streaked hair, directing operations with calm authority. Most shocking of all, she was looking directly at them, as if she could see through the portal just as clearly as they could see her. They know we're here, Tay whispered. They can see us. The woman said something to her team, and the image zoomed in until her face filled the portal. She spoke, and to everyone's surprise, her words came through clearly. Greetings from Earth. We've been expecting you since the beacon was activated. My name is Director Yu. On behalf of humanity, I welcome this first contact in a century. The team stood speechless until Tay finally stepped forward. I am Archaeologist Tay. We discovered your hidden facility on Earth. We had no idea humans still existed. Director Yu's expression was knowing rather than surprised. The Council has hidden many truths. We've been monitoring their activities since the vanishing. We know they told the galaxy we had died out naturally. The Council will be sending ships here soon, Han warned. Our expedition was interrupted when the beacon activated. We're counting on it, Director Yu replied with a slight smile. The time for hiding is over. The dimensional gateway is nearly complete. As if responding to her words, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. Jin rushed to a nearby console. Multiple Council ships just dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Heavy cruisers, not research vessels. The viewing portal flickered as energy readings spiked throughout the station. Director Yu remained calm. Don't be afraid. What you're witnessing is 100 years of preparation coming to fruition. The quantum computer announced, dimensional barrier integrity at 12%, and falling, full transition event in progress. Outside the station, the Council ships took up position, weapons systems powering up. Within minutes, armored security forces would board the station, determined to prevent what was already happening. You need to decide where you stand, Director Yu said. Her eyes fixed on Tai. The Council lied about us, removed us from existence because they feared our potential. Now we're coming home and the galaxy will never be the same. The portal began to expand beyond its original boundaries, the shimmering effect spreading throughout the chamber. The barrier between dimensions wasn't just being viewed anymore, it was dissolving. They're coming through, Sue whispered, backing away from the expanding dimensional rift. Tay looked at his team, then back at Director Yu's resolute face. A century of injustice was about to be answered. Humanity hadn't just survived their exile. They had transcended it, and now they were about to change everything. We stand with the truth, Tay said firmly, as the first human ship began to materialize in their dimension. The station trembled as the dimensional barrier thinned to nothing. What began as a small portal expanded until the entire chamber seemed to exist in both dimensions simultaneously. Through the dissolving veil between worlds, massive ships began to emerge, sleek vessels unlike anything in council space, their hulls shimmering with energy fields that bent light around them. Dimensional transition complete, announced the station's computer. Human vessels entering normal space. Outside, the council fleet held position, weapons locked on both the station and the emerging ships. Tay could almost imagine the panic spreading through their command centers as sensors registered technology far beyond their understanding. "We need to stop them," Han said urgently. "If they fire on the human ships," she never finished. A brilliant pulse of blue-white energy spread from the lead human vessel, washing over the council fleet. But instead of destruction, something unexpected happened. The council ships simply powered down, their weapons and engines disabled by technology that hadn't existed in this universe until moments ago. The station's communication system activated, projecting the image of a man in a simple dark uniform. His weathered face suggested years of purpose rather than age, and when he spoke, his voice carried quiet authority. "This is Commander Son of the Earth Reclamation Fleet. Your weapons have been temporarily disabled. We mean no harm, but we will defend ourselves if necessary." Tay stepped forward. "The council ships can't respond. Their communications were shut down with everything else." Commander Sun nodded. "Then perhaps you can relay our intentions. We aren't here for revenge, despite what was done to us. We're here to rejoin the galactic community we were forced to leave." Before Tay could respond, the station's airlock cycled open. Council security forces had managed to board before their ships were disabled. Led by a grim-faced commander, they stormed into the chamber with weapons drawn, then froze at the sight of the dimensional gateway and the human representatives visible through it. "By authority of the Galactic Council, this station is under quarantine," the security commander shouted, though his voice wavered. "All dimensional anomalies must be contained." Director Yu stepped through the gateway, becoming the first human to physically return to normal space in a century. She carried no weapon, yet the council forces backed away instinctively. "Your authorities gave that order 100 years ago," she said calmly. "We've had enough of containment." More humans followed her through, each moving with the confidence of people who had prepared for this moment for generations. They weren't soldiers. They appeared to be scientists, diplomats, and observers, all watching the council forces with curious, evaluating eyes. The security commander raised his weapon uncertainly. "The containment directive is permanent. Humans were deemed too unpredictable for integration." "And yet here we are," Director Yu replied, "returning peacefully despite what was done to us." "Which of us is truly unpredictable?" A new voice joined the standoff as Representative Ju pushed through the security team. She'd evidently pursued Tay's team from Earth, determined to prevent exactly what was now happening. "You don't understand what you've done," she said to Tay, then turned to Director Yu. "The dimensional barrier was for everyone's protection. Your species' advancement threatens cosmic stability." Director Yu smiled slightly. "Is that what they told the younger council members, that it was for protection?" She gestured, and one of her team handed her a small device. When activated, it projected records dating back to before the vanishing. Internal council deliberations never meant to be seen. The projection showed council leaders discussing humans not as a threat to cosmic stability, but to their own power. "Their adaptability will upend the established order within a generation," one ancient counselor stated plainly. "Better to remove them while we still can." Ju stared at the recording, genuine shock crossing her features. "These can't be authentic. The High Council would never—" "They did," Commander Sun interrupted, joining them through the gateway. "They feared what we might become, so they removed us from existence and rewrote history. But they miscalculated." From the gateway emerged more humans, bringing with them devices and materials unlike anything Tay had seen before. Some began setting up what appeared to be medical equipment. Others carried containers labeled with scientific symbols. "What are they doing?" the security commander demanded, his weapon still raised but increasingly uncertain. "Bringing gifts," Director Yu explained. Medical technologies that can cure diseases your doctors still struggle with. Clean energy systems that don't deplete resources. Food production methods that could end hunger on developing worlds. Tae watched in amazement as the humans efficiently organized their stations, working with practice coordination. You came prepared to share your advances, he realized aloud. Commander Sun nodded. Isolation taught us valuable lessons. When the Council cut us off, we could have turned inward, become bitter and vengeful. Many wanted to, but instead we chose a different path. We decided that when we returned, Director Yu continued, we would prove the Council wrong about us. We wouldn't come as conquerors, but as teachers and partners. More human ships continued to emerge from the dimensional gateway, taking position around Jupiter. On the station's monitors, Tae could see Council reinforcements arriving at the edge of the system, hesitating as they assessed the situation. Your Council faces a choice, Commander Sun said to Ju. They can attempt to contain us again, which I assure you will not succeed. Or they can accept that their greatest fear came true. Humanity advanced beyond their predictions, but we did so with wisdom as well as knowledge. The standoff stretched into tense silence until unexpectedly, Jin stepped forward from Tae's team. The evidence is clear, he said, addressing both sides. The Council was wrong a century ago, and continuing that mistake would be catastrophic now. Ju looked from the disabled Council ships to the impressive human fleet, then to the medical and scientific equipment being established around them. Her expression shifted from fear to resignation, and finally to something like wonder. I'll need to contact the High Council, she said at last. Director Yu nodded. Of course. We'll restore communications to your flagship only. Within hours, the situation had transformed. The initial confrontation gave way to cautious dialogue as senior Council representatives were rushed to the scene. Human diplomats who had prepared their entire lives for this moment presented irrefutable evidence of the injustice done to their species, alongside proposals for peaceful reintegration. Most compelling were the technological and medical advancements. They offered freely, not as bargaining chips but as goodwill gestures. Diseases that plagued Council worlds could be cured. Energy crises that threatened developing systems could be solved. Environmental damage could be reversed with techniques humans had perfected while rebuilding their isolated Earth. Standing at a viewport, Tae watched as the first official delegation of Council representatives boarded the station. Director Yu had asked him to witness the historic meeting. They feared us because we adapt quickly, she said, joining him at the window. What they never understood was that adaptation isn't just about technology. It's about perspective. In isolation, we learn to see ourselves as part of something larger. Will the Council accept your return? Tae asked. Director Yu smiled. They already have, in all the ways that matter. Their ships can't match ours. Their technology can't compete with what we developed. But we're not interested in domination. That was their fear, not our goal. Beyond the station, more gateways were opening as Earth reconnected with normal space. Humanity's century of exile was ending not with the war the Council had feared, but with an outstretched hand. The truth has emerged at last, Director Yu said softly, and the truth is both simpler and more profound than the Council imagined. They removed us because they feared what we might become. What they never considered was that we might become better than they expected, not just more advanced, but more compassionate. As Council representatives entered the meeting chamber, Tae realized he was witnessing the beginning of a new era. Humanity hadn't just survived their punishment, they had transformed it into an opportunity. And now, returning with gifts rather than weapons, they would transform the galaxy as well. The Council's worst fear had indeed come true. Humanity had advanced beyond containment. But their greatest hope, one they hadn't dared to acknowledge, had also been realized. That advancement had brought wisdom along with power.